Hi, Shalom Chaverim. This Shabbos will mark the anniversary of our beloved Rebbe, his ascension to a higher plane. It happened on the third day of Tammuz. Some will call it a Yortzeit, which in the Yiddish means a year's time. So essentially, 18 years have passed since the Rabbi Schneerson, the Rebbe, is not with us in the physical way that we were accustomed to seeing him. And one would think that as the years pass, the influence of the Rebbe should be regulated more to a historical event. There was such a man, he was a great leader, he did start a movement, but as the years progress, the influence of the man, the personality, and the allegiance to his teachings would be subject to change and perhaps even to revision. And yet the reality is that the Chabad Lubavitch movement is strong, it's vibrant, its outreach and its outlook has grown exponentially, and the allegiance to the teachings of the Rebbe has never been stronger. And this is not something that I could actually explain, other than merely to comment that something that's alive and a spiritual energy which is alive obviously will not dissipate or weaken. There are stories anecdotally about the Rebbe in the thousands. In my own family, there are stories. Myself and my wife have been privileged to see the Rebbe, talk with the Rebbe more than once in a private audience. And I'm thinking about what can I share with you about this holy great man. And I want to share with you a story, though it's not personal. It is a true story which I believe in many ways exemplifies the secret and the mystique of our holy Rebbe. This story goes back some at least 25 or 30 years ago, minimum, if not more, in Australia. And at that time, Reb Zalman Serebransky was the dean of the rabbinic part of Lubavitch Center. And one day, a young girl living in Melbourne basically comes to him and says, I would like to convert. And he was rather surprised. Convert, what does that mean, convert? And she says, I've always felt an affinity to the Jewish people. She was only, I think, 15 or 16 at that time. She said, we took a course on Holocaust history, and though everyone was affected by it, they quickly got over it. But when I read the stories and I saw the pictures, I couldn't sleep at night. And somehow I felt the pain of the Jewish people, and I felt it deep in my heart. And Reb Zalman, who's no fool, was looking at this girl, sincere and pure in her allegiance and love for the Jewish people, and couldn't figure out where is it coming from. There was really not much of a supportive atmosphere. And actually, when he asked about her parents, she said, we're Anglican, and my father goes to church on a regular basis. There's no one Jewish in our family, but somehow I want to join the Jewish people. Well, this wise rabbi spoke with her and tried to explain to her that she could be a fine person and a righteous Gentile, and she has a full life ahead of her, and there's so much good that she could accomplish, and she doesn't really have to box herself into a specific religion and accept the responsibilities of being Jewish. But to his great surprise, the more he pushed her away, the more adamant she was that she wanted to become Jewish and convert. He consulted with the head of the rabbinic council, his name was Reb Chaim, I think his name was Reb Chaim Gutnick, I know his last name was Gutnick, and he asked the chief rabbi of the rabbinic court to talk with her, because it's a rabbinic responsibility to make sure that the convert is sincere. Well, Rabbi Gutnick spoke with her and was very impressed with the girl as an individual, but had to explain to the girl, look, it doesn't make any sense. You're living at home. How can you be a Jew living in a Gentile home? When you're 18 or when you're 20 and you go to university, you'll be living on your own. If you still have these very strong feelings, then I'll be happy to work with you. But at this stage, it's much too premature to think a young girl who's still in high school to actually convert. Well, though in his opinion he was very logical, she took it very hard. And she took it as a rejection, that the rabbis feel that she's not worthy of being a Jew, and she actually fell into a deep depression. And because of that, there were times when she was hospitalized because she just didn't have a zest for life and did not want to eat. During this time, Rabbi Serebransky, who had a personal connection with this girl, would visit her and encourage her to eat and to be healthy. And there's life after high school. When she's at university stage, she might want to consider conversion. And her message was like the ancient Ruth: your people is my people, and I don't want to continue living if I cannot live in the Jewish tradition. Reb Zalman had never seen such sincerity. And he was so impressed. He went back to Rabbi Gutnick and he said, look, this is abnormal. She's something exceptional. Maybe we should make an exception to the rule. And Rabbi Gutnick said, on a very practical level, even if we convert her because she means sincerely and she's a girl of great integrity, how is she going to do it? She's living with her parents who are not Jewish. He said, you know what, I will write to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, explain to him the situation, and if he writes back saying that he feels that it's worthwhile to convert this girl, then I will do it. Well, Rabbi Serebransky went back to the girl and said that there's a very holy man, a great Rebbe who lives in Brooklyn, and the Rabbi Serebransky and the chief rabbi of the rabbinical court both are devoted followers and students of his, and they're writing to the Rebbe. And the girl said, oh, that's wonderful, I will write the Rebbe as well. So you can hear it from my perspective. And she was given the address and she wrote a note to the Rebbe. When Rabbi Gutnick sent the letter to 770, which is the headquarters of Chabad Lubavitch, the Rebbe of course received it. But to Rabbi Gutnick's surprise, he did not receive a response. However, in relation to a different question that he wrote, he did receive a response, and then there was like a P.S. What's happening with the Jewish girl from Balaclava? And when he got that, he couldn't believe it. Jewish girl? He didn't write about a Jewish girl. He wrote about a girl who wanted to become Jewish. And yet the Rebbe was very clear what's doing with the Jewish girl. So he went back to Rabbi Serebransky and he asked, what do you think we should do? And he, of course, being a fervent chassid, said, we know the Rebbe does not make a mistake. Let's go meet the parents. They meet the parents, and actually I should say the mother. The father was not there. The daughter was sent to her room, and these two rabbis are talking with this lady, with the mother of this young girl, and they ask point blank. They say, do you have any Jewish blood? Do you come from a Jewish lineage? And her first response was, what are you talking about? We go to the church, and we're Christian, and we're good people. We respect all people of faith, and that's why I let you in. And I know my daughter's been talking with you, and I haven't interfered. No, we're not Jewish. Why do you ask? And they both say, well, there's a very holy person from New York who intimated that your daughter is Jewish. Now, if your daughter is Jewish, it can only be if the mother is Jewish, and please be very honest with us. Perhaps you're aware of your mother or grandmother being Jewish. When she saw the sincerity of the two rabbis, she melted. And she told them the following. She said that her mother had immigrated to England at the beginning of the 1930s. She followed the horrible events in Germany and the rise of the power of Hitler, Yimach Shemam. She made a decision that she would raise her children without any religion. As a matter of fact, to tell them that they are not Jewish, so they should never have to live through a Holocaust. Of course, she herself, being Jewish, began to, little by little, distance herself. And though her husband knew originally his wife was Jewish by birth, over the course of time, he had completely forgotten about it because for all practical purposes, they were living as non-Jews. She then says to the rabbis, I love my daughter. I want her happiness. If for her, her happiness means returning back to Judaism, I will not stand in her way. Of course, they shared the very good news with the young lady that she actually was legally Jewish and had to catch up on her heritage. And indeed, not only was she accepted with a private tutor to a Jewish school, but as of today, she's actually a teacher as far as I know, in the community in Australia. A wonderful story, a miracle story. Rabbi Sarabransky, when he came to the Rebbe for a private issue, mustered up enough courage. And he said, Rebbe, how did you know she was Jewish? And the Rebbe looked at him with an innocence. I read the letter. Such a letter could have only been penned by a Jewish woman. Listen to this story. If you would get a letter in the mail saying, hello, I'm interested in being Jewish, what would you know? How would you judge? Is there any way to evaluate? But the Rebbe had not only extrasensory perception, but the Rebbe felt a Jewish heart, wherever that Jewish heart was. And the Rebbe could read in the writing a Jewish spirit. And when he read the sincerity and the heartbreak of this young girl, he knew, as a Rebbe, she must have a Yiddish neshama, a Jewish soul. And if there's anything that we could say about the Rebbe, this is one thing that is universal. The Rebbe felt the pulse of the Jewish people, understood the Jewish heart, and did not pay attention to the superficialities, to labels. The Rebbe saw the inside of a person and felt the holiness of the soul. Well, the Rebbe would not want us to tell stories about him only. The Rebbe would want us to emulate him. So that's our job. To get in touch with our own Jewish soul, to realize even if occasionally we're not consistent in Torah and mitzvahs, but deep down we truly want to be vibrantly Jewish. And actually this week in particular is a very good time to go back to strengthening our observance with enthusiasm. And when we look at our neighbors, do not judge. When we look at our neighbors, imagine yourself, how would the Rebbe look at this person? Would the Rebbe see the flesh, or would he sense the soul? Let's be worthy students. Sense the neshama of a fellow Jew, get in contact with our own, and with God's help, we will soon be once again reunited with the soul of our Rebbe in a body down on earth with the coming of Mashiach. Amen.